Hello everyone, I am going to show you how to replace the FiTech fuel injectors with a standard Bosch unit. I will link everything in the description. My FiTech unit already has the Bosch injectors in it, but I removed all the stuff to make it work properly. So I'm going to show you how to install everything with really simple hand tools, and everything you see here is everything we'll need. Need an Allen wrench. I'm going to use an electric one to take it apart. I am not going to use this to put it back together. You do not want to strip the threads. You don't want to mess up any threads. It'll just be easier. This is a 3/16 Allen wrench. Trusty needle nose pliers. You'll want some foam window seal. It needs to be smushy. And you'll want O-rings. This is super simple. This should take maybe 20 minutes if you're doing it for the first time. Take your time, do everything right. So let's get started. So I'm gonna do this one side at a time. It's fairly straightforward and you really can't mess it up too bad. So, 2 Allen bolts. One on each side of the rail. And all you're gonna do is pop this bad boy off. Super easy, comes right off. Then unplug your injectors. Little wiggling, never pull on the wires. You do not want to pull on the wires. If you pull one loose, you'll just make a headache for yourself. These ones I found on the front, you can get them behind them much easier. Sometimes just need a little wiggling. And if you have to pull out the injector to get it off, not a big deal. There's always one that has to fight you. It's the rule of working on cars. Something has to be difficult, and it always has to be the smallest thing. Get all your plugs out of the way, or your cords. Take your injectors out, and all you do, wiggle them out. Man, this last one is a pain. There we go. Try not to make your injectors go flying. Unless they're the old ones, who cares about those? Okay, injectors out. So, when you have your new injectors, all you're gonna do is bend these pins down a smidge. Just a little bit. Do not go crazy. I mean, look, I barely did anything. You just want them down just a little bit. The reason is it creates a better connection, and if you don't, you will get injector codes. So just bend them down a smidge. I mean, it's just a little bit. Do that to all 4. Just a smidge. And I've already done this, so I'm just making sure everything is exactly the way I want it. I mean, barely any pressure. Just bend them down just a little bit. I mean, just a smidge. Don't go crazy. It's not worth trying to fix this stuff. You don't want to break any pins. Those are perfect. So let's put the injectors back in. Now I like to use a little silicone paste. Super easy. Put them on both O-rings. Try not to go crazy with it like I do. And just for now, put it on the side that you're putting in the FiTech unit. Push them in. Just make sure they're in all the way. Same thing, little silicone paste. Push them in. Sometimes they'll fight you. Just take your time. No rush. Be patient. And don't do this when you have one car project that's already made you mad. You don't want to be angry when you're dealing with electronics. You'll just start ripping stuff apart. Push it in. I mean, you see how easily these go in. Little silicone paste. And you want to use some type of lube for the O-rings. Anything is better than nothing. If you don't want to go buy silicone paste, use oil. Just use something. You don't want to hurt these O-rings. And come on. There we go. Make sure they're all in all the way. Super simple. The injectors are in. Now, the reason we need the foam window seal. These pins are a little bit smaller than the stock ones. I should have shown you that while they were out. The inject from all the vibration, the connectors can come right on out. So what we do is we put just a little bit of this stuff. Open her up on this bad boy. Super easy. Basically, you're just going to lay a piece of foam the length of this, right below the injector. So I'm going to do that real quick and then I will show you the end process. Alright, that's all you do. This foam has a piece of tape on it, so it will stick to the other side of this. And just push it down. Make sure it's nice and smooth and level. You want to make sure everything is just perfect. And what this does is, I mean, it's not going to hurt your connector. Basically, all this does is keep your connector pushed in. So when there's a lot of vibration, your car doesn't have any issues, the connectors don't come out, you don't have issues. Basically, this is just a reliability mod. Now you can put in bigger injectors, and if you have bigger horsepower units than what they're suggested for, this is super easy. I'm doing this just for reliability purposes. Take your unit, a little silicone paste, a little bit on the top of the O-rings, and all this is protecting the O-ring when you slide on the fuel rail. Now first we want to plug in our injectors before we do this. Super simple. Now the injector order on the driver's side is 1573, in case you took out your stuff and didn't memorize where it went. So we have 7 and 3. Now just be gentle. Make sure they're in there all the way. And see, I barely bent the pins. I'm not having a lot of issue with them going back in or any crazy thing like that. You want to make sure that the wiring is not rubbing on this. Use zip ties, whatever you need to do. Just take your time. Cannot stress that enough. And then the last one, of course, will be the tricky one. Oh, actually it wasn't for once. Just make sure everything is pushed in nice and tight. And then, of course, always replace these O-rings. Don't spend $100 or $300 on injectors or whatever route you decide to take just to make it leak. And you could do this in your car. This really isn't that difficult of a thing. You don't want to use metal pulling these O-rings out. You don't want to scar the surface of the O-ring, and then no matter what you do, you have a leak. So take out your O-rings, put in some new O-rings, and I know it's the top right in this little box. Stick them in. Make sure they're in the groove. The groove is on this side. You don't want to try to stick them on this part. There's nothing to make them stick. Push them in. Make sure all of these injectors are fairly lined up. You want to make sure they're not off by huge margins. And I like to put just a little bit of silicone paste on these O-rings. That way when I put on the cover, everything slides instead of grabs and rips. And then all you do, pop your cover back on. Boom. Then all you do, put in your bolts. Start them by hand first. Always start bolts by hand first. You don't want to make projects harder than they are because you cross-threaded something. Take your time. Start the bolts by hand. Now, what I'm going to do, tighten this up with my wrench. I'm just going to do it in very small increments. I want this to be even, level, and evenly pressed against the O-ring so it does not leak. A little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there. Just keep going back and forth. And you do not want to tighten these down ridiculous amounts. There's no reason for that. And this is the hard side. Hard side's done. Only reason it's the hard side is because it has this linkage in the way. Big deal. And then when you're putting it back together, which I messed up, which you can see is this harness goes in there. So I'm going to fix that and then we'll do the other side. All right, I fixed the harness. It's in its proper groove. It has a little hole back here. You want to make sure that it's always in the right spot. Rookie mistake on my part, not a big deal. And then you're going to want to do the same on the other side because of these two wires. Now, it's the exact same process on this side of the unit. 2 bolts, boom, boom. I'm going to take these bolts out. Slide the cover off. Super easy. Same thing. Pull out the injector wires. Never pulling by the actual wire. Pull them out. Oh. Well, at least the injector came out easily. And then remove your injectors. The circular motions, don't start yanking on stuff. Just be gentle with your stuff. Okay. Now let's reinstall the injectors. Exact same thing we did on the other side. Alright, we start by bending down the pins just a smidge. Just a smidge. Nothing crazy. If you don't do this, you'll have injector codes. But it's not scary. I mean, I'm barely bending it. Do that on all of them, which these ones are pretty much, these ones have already been done. I'm just doing this to show you. And down. Bend down. Done. Then we do the same thing for the other side. We put that window foam weather strip just right here. I'm gonna do that, I'll be right back. Now see, all I did, placed this foam, it has tape on the other side, so make sure you put the sticky side down. Super easy. Make sure it's all the way on there. Install our stuff back up, so let's do that now. Put a little silicone paste on the tips of the injectors. Just a little bit. Nothing crazy. This is just to protect the injectors for install. You don't want to damage O-rings or you will have issues. I hate issues. There we go. A little bit of silicone paste. The same thing with all of them. Just a little silicone paste on the O-ring. Just a little bit. I know, I use more than a little bit. Do as I say, not as I do. A little bit of silicone paste. Boom. In. And what? Before I forget, let's replace these O-rings. Now, if you can't get them out with your finger, use something plastic. Don't use screwdrivers. Don't get crazy. Just find something that will not scar the metal. If you scar the metal, you have a really good chance of these O-rings never sealing up and problems I just would not want to deal with. Grab your new O-rings. Make sure they're in the groove fully. You don't want to pinch them and then have more leaks. You don't want to do this job twice, even though it's not that hard. I hate doing things twice. And I use a little silicone paste on the O-rings. Super simple. Now, the order of the injectors on the passenger side is 2, 4, 8, 4. So that's from the front of the unit to the back of the unit. So we want 2, and these are just labeled, this little white tab. 2, 6. And just make sure they're nice and firm. 2, 6, 8, and 4. I don't know who made this weird number system, but whatever. You just want to make sure they're pushed in all the way. And you want to make sure that this wire is in its groove spot. That way when I do this, I won't have to do it again. like the other side. And then you just use a little bit of paste on the top. I really should learn to use less, but oh well. Super simple, super easy. And then all you're gonna do is make sure that this wire stays in its slot. So I'm gonna hold it. Make sure all the injectors are in their little slots. Push it in, wire is in the correct spot. Boom. The unit is done as soon as these bolts are in. Remember, start these by hand. You do not want to cross thread them. You will have a headache that you've never had before. And do this by hand. You don't need power tools. Take your time. I love power tools as much as the next person, I promise. And if this bolt doesn't spin in easily, back it up. Try again. Doesn't spin easily, back up, try again. Take your time. There's no reason to rush perfection. And you don't want to be standing on the side of the road because you did something silly. And just go back and forth. You don't want to crank them down. You want even pressure. Even pressure. So I didn't do that one very well. I'm going to back this one up just a smidgen. Tighten this one just a little bit. Tighten this one a little bit. You want even pressure on those O-rings. You don't want to leak. Just make sure they're fairly tight. You don't need to crank on these damn things. Now, your unit's ready. You got new injectors. I'm going to put the link in the description. That was super easy. Now, I'm going to show you how to program the handheld. So, the next step of this process is very simple. All you do, take your handheld controller. You want to go to Display Setup, and you want to make sure your Pro calibration is shown. And then you'll see that it came up right there after I clicked on it. Go EFI Pro Tuning. Click on that, go down, and you're looking for injectors and VFI. Now you need the key on for this to work. It has to be able to send and receive from the FiTech unit. So injector flow, these are now 80-pound injectors. So you want to set this at 80-pound injectors. 80. I'm sure there's an easier way to do this, but oh well. Send to ECU. Boom, you're done. Injector flow. Now on my old handheld unit, the injector was around 37. You want to set that to 40. Now, when you install these injectors, you want to see what injectors you have first, because there's different models with different flow types. For some reason, some handhelds show half of the injector pounds per hour, and some show the full injector pounds per hour. For whatever reason, this is a newer handheld. It's the 4.5 inch model, whatever. It showed the full injector, so you want to set that at 80. These are 80-pound injectors, and that's all you have to do. And you also, if you don't see the Go FEI Pro Tuning, you go to your display and you want to turn on your Pro calibration. If you don't do that, you won't see the menu and you won't be able to fix how much your injector flows. All right, that's it. Have a great day, everyone. Super simple upgrade. This is more of a reliability upgrade for me. I don't like being stranded, I don't like being on the side of the road, and I don't trust FiTech fuel injectors. I will put a link in everything that I use today. Thank you and have a great day.